Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday. Thank you very much for being here. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for your time. We will be picking it up, this presentation, from where we left last Tuesday. Now, last Tuesday, we were talking about the essential steps in building your personal brand. We touched on some of the basics, and today I would like to continue on this so we can pick it up where we left off. So, as I was saying, and having some issues here. Right. So we were talking about the essential steps to building your brand identity. Okay. Now, another step that we got to consider is how to develop a content strategy. Okay. Now, content strategy is something that it needs to include an element that it's valuable, that it's got to be relevant to your audience, and it's got to be engaging. Now, if you think about it, and if you look at last week's video, by now, you should already have a pretty good idea of who you are and what you want to be and the type of influencer you want to become. You also should know who you are talking to, what kind of audience, male, female, age, right? What kind of tastes and likes they have, what are their interests, okay? And you got to speak that same language, right? So that's where you fit. You got to speak that same language. You got to talk to them in a sense that you know that what you're saying is going to add value to their lives, right? So by developing a content strategy, it doesn't mean about just editing or scripting your next YouTube episode, right? Or that Facebook Live. No, a content strategy is a little bit more broad focus. Okay. So you got to be very careful about not mixing things up. One episode that it needs to be edited and it needs to be developed and kind of like um created. It needs to fit your content strategy. Okay. Your content strategy is something that it's going to be, let's say, in a longer term. It needs to be sustainable over a longer term, right? So that basically is about focusing on addressing the needs and concerns and you're in the interest of your target audience. Okay. So whether you are, for example, a fitness influencer, okay, and you decide that your content strategy for 2024 is going to be to try for people to injure less while doing exercise at home. Okay. So that's where you're going to focus your content strategy. You're going to focus on the types of exercises that people should be doing at home or people should be doing without any sort of extra equipment or going to a gym. But you're going to focus on health. You're going to focus on performance. You're going to focus on nutrition. You're going to focus, it's like you can have a broader content, a broader idea of what you want to deliver, right? And once that you have everything penciled down, that's what's going to become your content strategy. Okay. But remember, it needs to be valuable. Obviously, I mean, like you're handling something valuable because you want people to keep following you, right? It needs to be relevant. You can't be talking about trends that happened 5 years ago. It needs to be now, right? And it's got to be engaging. So that means that you got to put some of your charisma, you got to put some like color into it so people are amused, right? And you kind of like create a need on them to follow you and keep watching what you got, any content that you create, right? So That's about developing a content strategy, right? Don't think about it in terms of episodes or Facebook lives or a post. No, think about it in a broader picture, right? Now, next, we got to build an engaging online presence, okay? And how do we do that? Remember, we live in a very mediatic world where everything is, basically in our fingertips and we can control everything over our phones. Okay. So we got to be present where our audience is present. Okay. And the way how we do this is imagine this like, kind of like playing warfare. You got a headquarter. Okay. That headquarter is your website. And your website needs to be that's where you could place everything you want, your ideas, your future vision, like everything can be placed there. Okay. So that's like that's your headquarters. From there, you got to start kind of like building this advanced forts. And why do I say this? Because you're gonna go placing, right, little um little aspects of you and your vision into different social medias. Okay. So that's why normally influencers they have a Facebook page that speaks very well to their website. Okay. An Instagram page that resembles, have the same tone, the same colors, the same everything as their website. A LinkedIn page that does the same. Okay. So first of all, if you really want to be engaging and have a very solid online presence, first thing you got to do, you got to optimize your website. Okay. How do you optimize your website? You got to go into all the search engines with the proper keyword search. Okay. You got to use meta tags. You got to use quality content to improve your search engine rankings. Okay. So if you do your job well, anyone clicking and putting fitness on Google should find you in the first page and not in page 232. Okay. The same thing as if anybody searches in Facebook fitness, you should be on top of that search. Okay. So make sure that your website is very well equipped. And trust me, this has become simpler and simpler with every day. Okay. Um, Companies like WordPress, for example, they have gadgets and apps, and like that can actually help you in a very seamless manner to improve your search, like the ability of you to appear on searches, in an easier format. Okay, so take advantage of that. Make sure that your website is mobile responsive. It means that it works very well on any type of mobile. Okay. If you have any idea about what I'm saying, also you could talk to your website developer, right? They would certainly know, but make sure that they know that you want your website to be mobile responsive. Okay. You want to look as good in a mobile or a tablet as you look on anyone's PC. Okay. And once again, what we were saying, integrate with your social media profiles. Okay. Your website needs to speak very well to any social platform. Okay. And it's going to be kind of like the whole focus, the whole image is going to be seamless, right? If I'm looking at your Facebook page and then I jump into your website and then jump into your YouTube channel, everything's got to have the same colors, kind of like the same creativity, the same design. So I don't have that feeling that I'm looking at something different. Okay. And also, another very important tool you got to use email marketing. Now, email marketing actually, and I don't mean spam, please don't spam people, okay? but build up an engaging audience to whom you could actually feed news and content and interviews and whatever it is that you are creating, all right? Plans for the future, you know, create an online presence with followers, with an email list that you could actually reach out to and send them information constantly so you are present in their lives. Okay. So if I forget about you, Mr. Fitness Instructor, right? I get an email once in a while reminding me that you exist so I can catch up on anything that you have created so far. Okay. And this last point, I personally don't recommend it when you are starting in your influencer career, but somewhere in your career, you're going to have to invest in online advertising. Okay. Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever it is, it helps. But it only helps if you have already some background, right? Why? Because definitely it's going to drive traffic to your page. But if that page is not engaging enough, that traffic is going to be lost and your investment with it. Okay. So be careful about that. Next, encourage customer testimonials and reviews. This is something that I talk about passionately because I think that it's really the future of everything. It's all about customer engagement. Okay. Remember, your audience, those are your customers. Okay. And you got to make sure that they have the power to actually feel closer to you. So you got to be able to bring up positive customer testimonials and reviews, right? And use them as the powerful tools they are. Okay. Now, most people will say you got to give certain credibility to good and bad reviews. True, it's true. But in my book, right, you gotta learn not to focus on the bad, but enhance the good. Okay. So if people are telling you, hey, listen, I love your sense of humor, um, fantastic, then that is something that you got to be working on and make it better, make it smoother. Or people saying, like, you know what? I mean, like the way how you exercise in parks and you create this awesome trainings, I love it. I'm putting it in practice. If you feel a trend coming in what you're doing, okay, make sure that you add that, like to structure your content. Okay. Make sure that you also acknowledge the people who are reaching you. Okay. Because they will feel closer to you. This is something that it's not only very relevant with the influencers, but as well as with companies. Okay. Companies are all the time trying to engage with customers. They want to make them feel part of the company, and they want to make uh, customers believe that um, their voice can be heard, and so on and so forth. It's something really big, and it's going to grow even more. So you got to be there, right? You got to be in contact with your audience. You got to make sure that they are heard, right, and they are acknowledged. So take good care of that. Next, utilize influencer partnerships. Now, this is something that when you talk about influencer partnerships, we're talking about influencers who do not do the same type of content that you do, but they do, or they concentrate on a different content that can be used to boost yours. Okay. Now, let me explain it with, let's say, an example. Okay. You're a fitness trainer. You're a fitness trainer, and you're going to be talking about injuries. So what you're going to do is you're going to look for an influencer who speaks, let's say a doctor, a chiropractor, a rehab med, anyone who knows about injuries, and you're going to invite him to do some content together. and you're going to be talking about injuries at home, injuries at the gym. I was like, let's talk about that. Okay. He is not a fitness influencer, but whoever watches him or her is going to start watching you. And your influencers are going to start watching him or her, right? So it's a win-win situation. And you make sure that your content is richer, but you're not competing. Okay. There are other means in which you can add certain influencers within your same line of work with your same kind of like content creation strategy, but that's going to be farther down the line. Don't do it when you are still too small, okay? Because that could be counterproductive. What you want to use is you want to use partnerships that do not compete with you, but in one way, they add value to what you do, okay? Think about that. So if you're, let's say, if you're a nutritionist, you're an influencer in the nutrition space, okay, you can certainly grab, I don't know, a fitness instructor, a bodybuilder, anyone, and hey, you know what? Let's talk about proteins. Let's talk about how well it works when it doesn't work. That's going to be a rich content, and you're going to be having a complete different angle on something that, it's relevant for what you do. Okay. So think about that. Next, this is key, and this might take some some education, right? But you got to measure and monitor your brand performance. Okay. And this might actually, it's not simple. I gotta say, I'm still figuring it out myself, right? But regularly, I mean, like tracking, analyzing your brand performance is crucial. That's crucial. You gotta know how many visits you got. You gotta know how many times people are visualizing your content, your articles, your videos. You gotta be on top of that to see really how well are you kind of like, digging into your audience, right? And you got a lot of tools for that. I don't know, so many different of software analytics out there, apps and plugins and stuff like that. It's amazing. Okay. As I'm saying, it might take some tutorials. You gotta have to review it, but trust me, I mean, like once you get it and you are capable of actually kind of like checking it out on everything you do on constant basis, that's gonna be a key indicator of how well you're doing. Okay. So don't neglect it. Just kind of like learn about it. Find software that you can use or that you can get a grasp on, and make sure that you kind of like you go and visit it regularly to learn what people want to what people would like to see from you. Okay. So for example, you send that you publish a new video, okay, and you were publishing a new video about, I don't know, um uh less knee impact exercise, and that video had a spike on your audience. Like people really watched it, and I was like, hey, guess what? I mean, like people are actually care about their knees and about how to do exercises in a less impact way. Like, okay, so less effort. It's going to give you hints, that's for sure. Okay, so definitely that's something that you gotta be looking at. Last, be adaptable and evolve with the market. Okay. Now, rest assured, health, fitness, the alternative health, the wellness industry, oh my God, are those so competitive? And those are industries that are constantly evolving. Okay. So it's key and essential that you keep up the pace, because there's always something, some new trend. There's always something new coming, whether if it's a keto diet, whether if it's, I don't know, a hyperbolic exercise, whether if it's this and that. And I was like, it's always about something new, and you got to keep the pace with it. You got to be nimble. You got to be flexible. You got to adapt. You know, uh, we know at the beginning we're all followers. Okay, every influencer starts as a follower. You got to follow the trends. You got to talk about what people want to hear. Okay. And it will come the time in which you will be a strong influencer, strong enough to start speaking things and start creating your own trends. Okay. So you gotta be, you gotta continuously research. You gotta develop like new content, new products. You gotta be, into the emerging trends and what your audience demands. Okay. And from time to time, you got to revisit your branding elements. That's also important. Okay, so check out your logo, your tagline, the way how you have created your website. See if there could be anything that could be updated. Perhaps certain colors don't go along anymore. You might actually have to change it. It's always a nice way to keep people kind of like motivated and informed that you're changing. You're always active. Okay, go into industry forums, check out webinars, be present, okay? Be close to the people who are actually very active in the media, okay, in your space, and always trying to get the latest innovation and best practices, of course, okay? And last, like I was saying earlier before, you can consider collaborating with other industry players, obviously, to create new innovative kind of like content, product, services, whatever it is. But that's when you feel confident enough about what you have achieved. Okay. So there you have it, folks. This is the end of how to create a brand for yourselves. I'm hoping you could get all this information and it will be, valuable to you if you're starting, if you're already an influencer and you learn something new and it's like you're changing for good. I'm happy for you. Next week, we will talk about how to put everything together and how to adapt it to the alt health way. Okay. So we already got everything we need. Our brand is ready. Let's start making some money, right? Let's start changing people's lives. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So thank you very much for hearing me. Like, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Until next Tuesday.